is, Lotta. I'm trying to get my lighting and stuff in today. So awesome. Thank you for joining me. I am sitting here. Sorry, I'm getting calls. Okay. So as promised, we have a training today and a special treat because I like for us all to get, different perspectives on things. You may have heard me talk numerous times about getting into trucking insurance, the world of commercial insurance, and I give credit to my business partner, who is my sister as well, but she has so many years of experience in different capacities of insurance. So I really felt that she was the better person to do this with me. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce our co-person here today. You're on mute, Precious. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm trying to make sure I have my questions. So, as you are coming in to view our presentation, if you would kindly just put your location. So just drop in the comments, what state are you in or your resident state, because that's very important to our presentation as well. So we want to make sure. So Precious, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and just a little bit, if you would, about if someone just kind of was looking at getting into insurance, what are some preliminaries that they need to view, about the profession? So I will let you take the stage.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Precious Norman Walton. As Lotta introduced me, I'm the co-founder of Lovejoy Risk Management Corp., which is the trucking-focused insurance agency that Lotta and I have built and run since earlier this year. So a little bit about me as far as my background, my connection to the industry. I've been in the insurance industry for about 15, 16 years now. Um, I started my insurance, my career rather, as a life and health agent, actually. I got into life and health insurance because I wanted to help people take a really complicated product, break it down into steps that they can actually take action on so that they can make the most out of the decisions and be able to save the most money long term. Things aren't always as they appear. I think when I got into the industry, I went into it with the expectation, or really the false understanding of the correlation between what you pay monthly versus when you actually use the insurance. Now, health insurance is a little different because you buy health insurance literally to use it. With this type of insurance, talking about property and casualty insurance, you buy it and you really hope that you never have to use it, but you have peace of mind knowing that if something goes wrong, that you have it there as kind of a safety net, to keep you from catastrophic financial ruin. So I moved from the life and health side, started my career working for a local State Farm agency in our hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana. It was there that I really got a better appreciation of how much insurance really makes business and all manner of financial investment possible. If it weren't for the fact that you have car insurance, if everyone was required to keep $50,000 on hand in case they cause an accident, there'd be very few cars on the road. Same way with your home insurance. If you were required to have the same amount of your mortgage, in a liquid capacity so that you could pay it off if lightning struck, very few of us would own homes. And so really insurance is the vehicle that makes all other manner of investment and business possible. So speaking about, again, kind of what we're here to talk about today, trucking insurance. Well, let me take a half step back. So I've moved through the industry over the past 15 years and have been very fortunate to work in a variety of capacities. So I started off, as I mentioned, in a local agency. I moved from there to claims because I really needed to understand the ins and outs of what happens once something goes wrong. What does that look like? What are those time frames? What is that process? What is that experience, right? Because I'd been selling a product all those years and I really didn't know what truly goes on when a claim is turned in. So I worked property claims for a number of years, moved from there to underwriting because, again, that curiosity, I wanted to know, how are these decisions made? How do we know who's a good customer? Who do we want to take a chance on? because insurance, you can be immediately upside down. If you think about it, even with your personal auto policy, it's very possible that you can pay $100 a month and before the first month is over, cause a $10,000 claim. So there is some science that goes into it in terms of how the insurance companies make their decisions. So I went into underwriting, and while I was in underwriting, I also obtained one of the insurance designations that is very highly regarded in the insurance industry. So I'm what they call a CPCU, which is a Chartered Property Casualty Underwriter. So only about 2% of us in the business hold this designation, and it was an achievement of mine that I set out to do and was so excited when I accomplished it. In addition to that, I'm actually the immediate past president of the Dallas chapter of the CPCU Society. So the CPCU Society is very much like the alumni association for those of us who hold this designation. Long story short, my career has given me the opportunity to really view insurance from all its angles and facets and have a greater appreciation of how these things work, how from the application process to the sales process to the claims process, all of these pieces are interdependent. So if you go into it and you put your best foot forward and share all the information necessary, it results in better rates because the insurance companies are familiar and comfortable with the risk. It results in a better experience overall. So it's not haphazard. So if someone's looking to get into the industry, specifically the trucking side of it, I would encourage you to, kind of adopt the mindset of being a problem solver. Some of the preliminary stuff, as Lotta mentioned, is that in order to sell insurance, you must gain an insurance license, and there is a testing requirement in the majority of states. And so typically you take a course, you pass a test, there's a background component of it as well, and then you submit the application and you obtain a license, and then every certain number of years, it's not a one and done, because what we do is so important to society at large. We have to stay abreast of all the things that are changing, the updates, and so we do have a continuing education requirement that we go through every year. So Lotta, I think, does that tackle?
I think, yeah, you kind of fire hosed us there. So I want to just kind of take it a step back and break down, the important gems you shared. So thank you, everyone, as you're coming in and dropping your resident state. So this is important to our presentation because, as Precious said, you know, licensure is required in order to talk in depth about insurance policies because there's a certain level of expertise that you'll get through licensing and accountability to the public that you have as being a licensed professional to be able to interpret policy language. We're pretty familiar, overall, because I'm assuming that many of us had had the opportunity to, have a personal auto insurance policy that you may have just kind of looked into your agent's eyes or like, what are you talking about? Help me decipher what it is I need to move this beautiful car off the lot. Now, depending on, again, how eager you were to move, may definitely impact, your level of wanting to even get to the nitty gritty through your policy. But as it pertains to trucking, it's almost a matter of compliance to really understand how a trucking policy is structured because it's based hand in hand with how an authority is set up. So let's step one step back, Precious, if we could. And I didn't know if you had our website on here. So Precious and I run a nonprofit here in Texas to really help encourage and build awareness of just all the aspects of being a licensed insurance professional. As she mentioned, she sat in different roles. And so you don't have to go through all of them. That's just her path and her sharing, but it's definitely increased her skill set, her knowledge, her versatility of being able to speak to different businesses from where they're sitting in regards to insurance. So I'm going to let Precious screen share, if you would, our website, and we're going to start off with the quiz. And I see people, we have everyone from Mississippi, Tennessee, Illinois, Texas, Colorado. She hates how I say that word, but I am trying. So Precious, let me know when you're ready to screen share the website and just talk a little bit about the purpose of the nonprofit, if you would.
All right, hold on. Let me get it queued up here.
Oh, okay. Also, if there's any questions as you're coming in, so we have Georgia joining us, please feel free to go ahead and add the questions in the chat. I'm monitoring the questions in the group and such, and so I'll make sure that we come back and address those as well. All right, here we go, and I'm going to let you, Precious, kind of walk us through the quiz. So I'm going to get off the screen.
Oh, me too. Okay. All right, guys. So
Okay, hold on.
this is our home page. So was set up as a nonprofit. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization as far as the taxes are concerned with the IRS. And really the purpose of organizing this was to promote and encourage the insurance industry as not only a career field, but also a viable option for entrepreneurs and the self-employed to either add to or focus on in terms of a product offering. So when you visit the website, and it's simply lovejoyresources.org, O-R-G, this is our quiz to kind of give you a walkthrough of, is this something that you should consider? Is it something that you're ready to jump into? So we will walk through the quiz here together. And okay, so this is a checklist rather of what's required in order to obtain your license. So depending on what it is you're looking to do in this situation, in this conversation, we're talking about becoming a licensed producer. Producer is the term that's used for individuals that are in the involved in the process of quoting, selling, and servicing insurance policies. And so to Lotta's point, the reason why we're asking you to share the state that you're joining us from is because this process is very state specific. But what is pretty much common across the board is that you have to be able to demonstrate a certain level of knowledge when it comes to the ins and outs of insurance regulation, the law, the compliance piece. So with this particular program that we have here, we have partnered with an organization called WebCE, which is an industry leader when it comes to providing insurance education, both prior to becoming licensed as well as ongoingly. And so they have created this curriculum that is state specific. So depending on what your resident state is, it's going to present information that's relevant to you. This information is available to you online at your own pace. So there's 24/7 mobile ready access, meaning you can get on from, as you see the image here, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, excuse me, whatever platform you prefer to receive the content is viewable there. It's the highest quality content. So the testing authorities actually change up some of the questions depending on what is a bigger focus, what is kind of outdated. And so WebCE is in constant communication with the departments of insurance to make sure that the content is available and the quality, again, is really going to prepare you for a successful attempt at the exam. There are unlimited free practice exams and timed simulations. So when you go into the actual test environment, it is a proctored test, which means that you have someone who watches you take the test to make sure that you're not cheating and using the study materials at the time the test is administered. And so practicing gives you some real-time feedback on how well you've grasped the information. In the majority of the states, you have to pass the exam with a 70% or higher. So my rule of thumb typically is that if you are coming in between 80 to 90% in simulation, that's probably a good indicator that you can pass that 70% hurdle when you take the actual test. The unlimited, again, you don't have to pay to retake it. And then the time simulations are to make sure that you're able to pass the test within the same time frames that the real life test is going to be. The study aids in the instant feedback. The instant feedback is just what it sounds. If you mark a question and your answer is incorrect, it's going to let you know on the spot instead of making you go to the entire exam just to go back and review all of your questions. And not only is it going to tell you what you've done wrong, but it's also going to explain what the proper answer was and kind of what differentiates what you chose versus what the actual actual answer is, because sometimes it's really understanding the application of which of these answers is best. So it's not the only correct answer, but the best answer is normally the key. There's a study planner where you're able to put in what your goal is. So if I have the goal to take my test before the first of the year, it's going to tell me how much time I need to dedicate between now and the first of the year to be ready to take the test. The flashcards, again, it takes these chapters, these modules, and it breaks it down into terminology so that you can just quickly pull it out. So if you were stuck in the kid pickup line at school or wherever you may be, and you just have a couple minutes to devote to studying, the flashcards are really effective for that. And then there's live support. So if you ever get stuck, if something, whether it's a technical issue or just your progression through the course is compromised, there is support to kind of help walk you through that. So there's all sorts of licensing, excuse me, in the industry, and the producer license is one that is specific to selling and soliciting insurance as a product. So let me hop back to, hopefully you can see if I go back here. Okay, so is this right for me? Okay, so this is the interactive quiz on deciding, is obtaining an insurance license the right move for you? Is this something that you're ready to do? Is this something that makes sense for you at this point in your career, your business? So these following questions are set up to help identify, again, if this is really going to be a good fit for you. So the first question is, what is your residence state? And again, the reason that's important is so that we can make sure that you're on the right path for whatever your state requires. So I will go with the great state of Texas. Oh, we got a lot of stuff visible here. Autocorrect. Okay. Obviously, what is my name? A number where I can be reached. Oh. My email address. Have I ever been or am I currently licensed in insurance? If you've been licensed in the past and your insurance license simply expired, there may be another way to obtain your license without going through the test. So it is important to share if you've ever held, excuse me, a license in insurance. And as I pointed out earlier, there's more than one license type that's available out there. So sometimes if you hold another license, you may not have to go through the entire experience to get a license to sell. So we're going to say no in this situation. And so it says again, if so, what type of license did you hold? And in this case, we're going to say it's not applicable, that we've never been licensed. What interests you about a career in insurance? People are drawn to insurance careers for various reasons. It might be a desire to give back to the community, a desire to, the earnings as far as commissions are concerned. So this again just kind of helps us identify what is it that's drawn you to this option. So I will choose wanting help my community. Your learning style. Understanding and recognizing your learning style is really important in this journey, because that way you can be paired with the type of materials that are going to help you be most successful. So do you prefer a self-paced program where you can just, again, devote time as you're able without hard deadlines? A boot camp is more of an intensive review where we get together and really kind of tackle some of the harder to understand concepts and question and answers. Do you like to see scenarios and examples, real life, how this stuff plays out in numbers? Do you prefer workbooks where you can kind of take notes and study at your own pace? Again, are videos helpful? Do you like one-on-one tutoring? So we will just select self-paced to move forward. So this is a reminder again that in order to obtain an insurance license, there is a cost that is associated with the testing materials, the access to the test itself, mentoring and all the support that you're going to need, as well as the background check. So there is a monetary cost. And so you have to be willing to make that investment. And the exact cost does vary because, again, a lot of this is based on state-specific fees. There are scholarships that are available. So if this is something that you want to pursue, but perhaps there's a constraint in terms of being able to pay for that, letting us know whether or not you want to be considered for a scholarship. You can choose yes or no here. The timeline. as we discussed earlier, depending on how quickly you're looking to make a transition into the industry, is going to determine when and how you start your studies. So are you just looking into it, you're not sure at this moment, or are you ready to get going right away? And so we will choose soon as possible. And again, the primary motivation for considering the insurance industry, and we've got some answers here, is it due to the high demand? I will definitely say that the insurance industry historically has experienced lower than usual unemployment numbers, meaning those of us who are licensed and experienced and trained in insurance typically don't struggle with finding work. Is it the flexibility, helping people, agency leverage? So do you like the idea of having customers that you get paid on every time they renew policies as well as when they buy it, residual income, or do you have another reason? So we'll go with helping people. Which role are you most comfortable in? The insurance industry is very vast, and there's all sorts of opportunities in terms of jobs as well as business opportunities. So are you most comfortable with just selling, where you find prospects and you find folks who are interested in your services, servicing? So as a customer is with you, they may have needs in terms of making changes, proof of insurance, things like that. Or are you ready to own an agency, which basically encompasses both of those roles above? Do you have prior customer service experience? Working with people is an interesting interesting experience. People either love it or they hate it. You know, if you're more back office, so you just like preparing paperwork versus engaging directly with customers, then this may or may not be something that is a great fit. But if you have prior experience working with customers, you'll find that those skills easily translate into the insurance industry. Do you speak other languages than English? Being bilingual, trilingual, whatever number of linguals you have going on is definitely an advantage, especially when you have widespread events like the hurricane that just passed through. There's always a need for things like that. Um, do you prefer to work? Excuse me. What is your preferred work environment? Do you like to work in an office where you're surrounded by a team and there's perks and kind of the benefits of driving in person every day? Do you like smaller casual settings where maybe it's just you and one partner, or just a very, again, um, small group versus a large corporate feeling? Remote work, which is becoming more and more important. And I'm excited to say that the insurance industry is adopting. There's more and more remote work being offered, especially as we're in the middle of this pandemic. And again, do you like to go site-based? So do you actually want to show up where your customers are located and give them some real feedback and do a walkthrough and be able to assess their overall insurance plan? And so that is the questionnaire. So based on that information, once we receive those details, then we reach out to you to kind of talk about your answers, just to make sure that you're going into this with realistic expectations of what training looks like, what the testing environment feels like. And, again, this is just designed so that everyone is on the same page and ready to get started and to really just see the commitment through. Oftentimes people express an interest, but this is not a registration where you're just going to get a packet and then all of a sudden you're out there and you're ready to sell. This is really just the beginning of a journey. This is how you become legally able to sell, and then begins the actual training on who am I selling to and what am I selling. So that's a little bit about, again, walking through the quiz on our website and some of the resources that are available to help you get into an industry that is growing, that has high demand, and again is just as necessary and permanent as law, medicine, or any other major pillar in our society. Oh, we can't hear you, Lana. I think you're muted.
Okay, can everyone hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Hopefully. All right, so again, here is our website, and I wanted to just bring to attention, if you wanted to explore your state-specific information, how you can do that. So via our website, and let me actually pull up the website first. Is it allowing? Okay. So Joy resources, and let me make it bigger for my screen. Okay. So this is where the quiz was found. And so now you can go to getting licensed. And it just goes through some of the details of what it's like to get licensed and getting started, some things that you need to consider as Precious has gone over. There's curriculum, because some states require that you do pre-licensing curriculum, which means you have to have finished a course in order to even sit for the exam. Other states, like Texas, say, hey, when you're ready, come sign up. So we offer mentorship and just support, both being licensed ourselves. We can kind of answer some questions. There's some additional boot camps and stuff we offer as well, if that is the preferred part of your learning. So this is also, I know Precious had kind of got in and went over her background, but this is where you can really learn more about her various roles and experience in insurance. And she's been very modest, and I'll go ahead and help toot her horn to where she's been able to give several designations, not designations, but been able to really be a trailblazer for minority women in this space. And this is even why we decided to go about doing a nonprofit behind this. So on here at the very bottom, again, our website, Meet the Instructors, you can see a link to her, let me close this other stuff there, to her LinkedIn. Check it out. You'll see some of the projects she's working on. She has some upcoming classes in insurance journals, to where, I just really encourage you to connect with her on LinkedIn professionally as well. And here I am. You guys are used to me, but, I have a couple of licenses too. And one I like to just bring to the attention is a designation called Transportation Risk Insurance Professional, or the TRIP designation. So we'll talk more about that another time. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. But this is a really, I don't want to use the word easy, but very straightforward designation. It's not super expensive. You don't have to have years in the field to really grasp it. Like I said, it's very straightforward and very aligned to transportation. So, all right, we have a question here. So we'll kind of go into that here in the process. But fundamentally, going back to what it's like to be licensed, and I want to jump back to this tab, is where that, and I'm trying to remember exactly where that is, Precious, if you can help me with it. Is it the getting licensed that brings you here? Get started today. Yep, okay. So it's the get started is what brings you to this screen, which is where I was. So get started or bring you to this screen. So as we were saying, it's state specific, and to answer the question that's on here, all right, you would go into course catalog, and under pre-license exam prep. So this will be the material in order to get started. So as Precious indicated, once you're licensed, you have a certain level of, no problems, you have a certain level of continuing education to do to renew your license. So this is what that tab is. And then we have some other special fields, but starting on pre-licensing, there is the producer license, and it'll break it down here in just a moment, as well as an adjuster's license. So if you're looking to become an independent adjuster, or again, work as a claims adjuster, to which we're both licensed as well, we do have a program that includes the testing already built in. So that one fee will include pretty much everything except for, what you send off to the state in the application, and how to become a claims adjuster, which is, as you know, with the storms, is what catastrophe claims adjusters can do. So that's a separate tab, but we're going to look at the one on the left. And so it breaks down your state. So I'm going to pick on Texas, breaks down your state, and you hit continue. And then it's going to ask you for the type of license. So as Precious indicated, insurance is an industry, and there is a lot of different ways to go in it. There's no right way, first way, left way, right way to do it. So you can have a life and health license to get into that field first. You can go right into property and casualty. There's such a thing as limited lines, which we'll talk somewhere else, as well as personal lines. But we're going to focus more on The commercial aspect, as trucking is commercial, and it deals with property, which is, things versus lives, and that would be the main difference between the two. And so we'll go into property and casualty. So from here is where you're able to see the state requirements, and it pops up as a big red button at the top. We'll talk about the packages here shortly, but I wanted to go over the state requirements. So when you click on the state requirements, this is per your state, and it breaks it down to where you can get a student handbook. You don't have to pay for the handbook. There's a downloadable copy if you prefer to study that way. It goes over the licensing application for your state. It goes over the things that are part of that exam, as well as how to actually register for the exam. So most importantly, I just want everyone to know it's a step-by-step process. You can go ahead and move forward and do your license application before taking your test. That's fine, but I wouldn't advise that. You may want to go ahead and spend more time studying and such. There's no rush to do the application, second to just getting it applied, because that's going to be your background check, and one of the things they're going to look for is the passing of the exam. So if you're not ready to, take the exam, I focus first on learning the material, scheduling the exam, learning the material, scheduling the exam, and then doing the application, as you're waiting for that time to come up. All right. So then it just goes into a deeper dive on what is the application process. So you can click through. In Texas, we use Pearson View. The requirements. And so it goes through each step of what a passing score is, how to register, how to transfer non-resident licenses, and if you're moving into Texas and you have a license in another state and want to transfer it over, it goes through the process. So to answer the question that's right here, in order to be licensed in multiple states, what's the process? You have to have a starter state. You have to have a starter state, and that is what we call your resident state. Your starter state is the state in which you are a resident. You have to have documentation to show that you are a resident of that state. Most of the time, the documentation is having a driver's license with a current address. They will be very strict on that. So if your driver's license is outdated, you've moved, your license is going to have to match your driver's license. So they're going to be really strict on making sure your name, if you've gotten married or divorced or whatever the situation may be, and your name is incorrect from your legal name, they will not permit you to take the test, because that proof of residency is going to be your driver's license, and it needs to match. You also need to be of 18 years or older. And then there's a fingerprinting process that's part of the background and such. But if you just kind of click, I don't want to overwhelm, I just want to give you the resources to which you can explore, what the requirements are. And if you have additional questions, you can definitely reach out. So the answer again on this question is you start off with a resident state, and then you apply for non-resident licenses. But everything is going to be mirrored off your resident state. All right. So
So
here's
I did want to add, if I may, about the being licensed in multiple states. And so, Lotta covered all of the points in terms of you become licensed in your home state, you register as a non-resident producer in the various states, because every state is different, as we keep mentioning. The fees and the different types of licenses, even in the different states, do vary. I can tell you personally that the cost, for example, if you went in and became licensed in all 50 states, the big number for all 50 states is probably about a $9,000 commitment. Even those of us who do business in multiple states don't typically do all 50, because the likelihood of me writing something in North Dakota or Montana, I don't mean to pick on those states, is very rare, and the cost doesn't. It's all over the board. It really there's no correlation between like a larger state or a more popular state in terms of the cost. Now, ongoingly, you remain in good standing. So all of the classes that you have to take to maintain your license, as Lotta said, because there is reciprocity, which basically means you're reciprocating from your home state. So you do all of your education for your home state, and then most states are on either a yearly or every 2-year renewal cycle. So it's not a one and done. That cost is something that you do maintain as long as you want to maintain a license in that state. And it's also worth noting that should you decide that you do not want to be licensed anymore, there's a process in which you actually surrender your license. I've seen where people have just simply let it go, so to speak, not paid for renewal, and then received a bill after the fact, for just letting it kind of go by the wayside. So this is something that you have to actively monitor and stay on top of, and be mindful of the different jurisdictions in which you're looking to do business and what their requirements are, as far as, do you have to have a presence in that state? Are you just selling to customers located within that state? And for trucking, it's always interesting because, of course, our customers, they may have a presence in one state, but most of these guys are driving across the country. So, what dictates who you're selling to also depends on what their primary business address is.
All right, thank you for that, Precious. So the main difference between these two packets, and you'll notice there's no hours associated with it because each one of these packets come with these study tools already. It's a very, if you're used to taking online curriculum or taking a Udemy or some type of course, that's self-contained. It's going to just be where modules, you're able to do fact checks. There's some reading you can always refer back to, and then some skills checks along the middle of the reading where it'll ask you some 5 questions that just kind of dealt with the paragraph you just finished. So it's nothing really super intensive. There is a little bit of math in there for other math folks like myself. There is a little bit of math, but it's not, look, I can't even think of the math. It's not algebra or nothing fancy. It's just how would you calculate, certain things if they give you the information. But the difference between the two is this packet here contains videos and this one here does not. We would recommend this one unless, again, you just know your learning style. And that's what that quiz really helps you think about, in considering how to study for the exam. You can do the videos, but it's a $50 difference between the two. So as we go in here, it just breaks down again with the what's covered. So all of the states are going to have a general insurance as well as just general information about property, general information about casualty, and then state specifics that you'll need. It is an exam tutor, so a simulator, so you can click around, go back to it. There's not any rhyme or reason, but if you're in a state that requires that you finish the program before you can even sign up for the license, of course you'll need to finish. You'll need to pass that preliminary exam in order to get the credit internally, but it's already part of your cost because it's sensitive, like I said, to your state. So when you add it to the cart, I just want to show you the affordability of it. We do give a 50% discount to U.S. military veterans. So if you click yes, it's just going to ask you for the rank of your DD 214. Again, if you're a veteran, you already know what that is. And then they'll apply the discount at checkout, but I'll go ahead and put no. And so it shows then in Texas, and really for the most part, all states, that pre-licensing exam prep is $99.95. So $99.95, and then you would pay for it. You'll have instant access, and like I said, $49.95 if you're a veteran, to be able to complete this first part for many people. I've actually extended the credit to veterans' wives, so great question. And I haven't heard much fallback in regards to getting someone who's a dependent. They're pretty lax. Like I said, it's more of a courtesy type discount, then it's one that needs to be, registered and verified and stuff. So those are the only two questions that actually ask you is the rank and the branch of service for the DD-214, and then they reserve the right to, to request it if, they were to, you know, make sure if you're eligible for the credit. So $99.95 self-paced, it'll go through it, but then just so you'll know, here in Texas, just picking on Texas again, once you don't have to finish the course in order to register for your exam. Your exam is about $75 for the exam part to take the test. And Precious, quote me, help me. For the application, is it also 75 or is that the 50?
I
I can't
believe
remember off
it's
the top of my head.
$50 is the actual license cost.
Okay.
That's what you send off to the state. So when you put your packet together and you have your test results, and then I believe, like I said, the fingerprinting in the background is the $75.
Okay. So it'll break it down. Again, you don't have to remember this. It's right here. Click on it. It'll go into the exam. Oh, that's the outline. I didn't mean to do that one. It'll go
As
into
you
the
sign
details.
in, yeah, it's really important. I know this question comes up a lot as well. Even if you have fingerprints for other jobs or roles that you may have done, I know that education sometimes requires fingerprinting. These
Hmm.
fingerprints are specific to the Texas Department of Insurance or the Department of Insurance, period. And so this cost is you can't get around it unless you hold another license with the Department of Insurance already. So if I'm an adjuster and now I want to go back and get my license to be a producer, they don't make you do the fingerprints twice, but other fingerprints for other reasons, financial or otherwise, are not interchangeable here.
Absolutely. All right, that's kind of, we're in our Q&A section. Like I said, I don't want to overwhelm with anyone, but so the first steps is to get a PNC license. Um, then you will, once you're licensed, you are able to get appointments, basically contracts, depending, again, thinking back at that on that quiz, whether you want to do this independently, do you want to find a job with it, that's going to definitely structure those next steps. So, in closing, Precious, if you can share the website again, it gives some resources if you like mentoring, a more structured boot camp. We offer boot camps as well that go in specifics of things you'll need to know and how to get the contracts, how to get aligned to working on the commercial side, different things that look great on a resume. We go over all that type of stuff, but it's very much, let me make sure this is on. Okay. Very much more towards a what do you want to do with it? Because as you heard from Precious' background and her experiences, she was able to sit in a lot of different roles, and like you said, hindsight can see how it all benefits and it comes together. But there's more direct ways to do it. It's a benefit to kind of learn the personal side sometimes, as you want to get into it that way. But there's different programs, there's boot camps, and all the costs that you see right there are involved. If you want to work more intensively with our agency, that's more of what the specializing in trucking insurance program will allow you to do. We help you get set up as an agency, and go over some sales as well as all the back office needed to get you up and going on that. So that's part of what that is. Precious, did you want to comment or anything on here? And then we want to open it up for any questions anyone has over our presentation.
Yeah, sure. So to be, to recap, we are a nonprofit. So the purpose in offering this isn't just to sell a course. We actually are vested in helping you to pass and succeed. Self-study is interesting. Some of the stuff you'll be able to read, it'll resonate, it makes sense. You may be familiar with it from your personal insurance experiences or things that you've heard or seen. There are going to be some things that are going to be a little bit dry. There are going to be some concepts that as you go through the test simulator that you're just consistently getting wrong, and you're really not sure why it's wrong because you've done your due diligence and studied and you just can't figure it out. So the boot camp, the $99 session, is designed for those who need to maybe troubleshoot, get some answers, kind of get a better grasp on the material before they sit for the state exam. The state exam, as we mentioned and we confirmed, like here in the state of Texas, that the cost to take that exam, it's pass or fail, and you get feedback immediately. So at the very end of the test, it's going to ask you for, there's usually a survey, and then it's going to show you, whether or not you passed or failed. They'll give you a print off, and that's part of what you send in with your license packet. There is a lot that goes into testing, between scheduling availability, showing up, mentally preparing for it. So we've had several students who've reached out and they just want that extra oomph, that extra confidence before they go into it. So that is what the boot camp is designed for. As we mentioned, this is just the beginning. This is just the table stakes. This is what it takes to, this is your admission into the party. This doesn't actually prepare you after you take the test to jump right into the deep end of the pool and start selling insurance. The things that I've been able to do, and I do want to encourage, and just in general terms, as far as the insurance industry as a whole, from an employment standpoint, right now, there's a lot of hiring everywhere, I know. But, this one course, one exam, one license immediately positions you to, a different bracket of earnings versus going to, college and several semesters and a degree later. This is a way that you can kind of show job readiness right out the gate. You can go the entrepreneurial route, as we've talked about, where you're able to set up shop, become an independent agent, and kind of chart your own course as far as that's concerned. I would encourage you, if this is something that you're looking at, this is not just certifying to work with us. This is a license with the state, and so once you have a license with the state, that license belongs to you. So there are a lot of places out there that, for example, may sponsor you to get your license and ask for some sort of commitment that you work with them for a time. But it is really important to understand that you are the licensee, and so you really, kind of choose the um the path that most, that best lines up with what your long-term goals are.
Absolutely. So what I have on the screen, just real quickly, just to give you a glimpse, I didn't do my pre-licensing with our program because I didn't even know about it. We didn't have the program yet. And so I did, though, do my adjuster's course. So I just wanted to just show you the format so you can kind of just know behind the scenes. It took me 23 hours, and not just sitting there, but 23 hours in order to complete all this. And it kind of showed where, I was on track and where I wasn't and such like that. So this is the time frame that it took me to do the adjusters, and this is kind of how it breaks it all down. So it really gets into the nooks and cranny of it. And what you're seeing is, I'll read a section that has to deal with general insurance. So I'll read the overview, and as you see on here, looking at my patterns, it took me 2 minutes, probably not even that, to read that overview. Again, I took my adjuster's license after I took my producer license, so I'm already familiar with the general insurance things. So
It
I
took you
read
one
it, go
minute. It
over.
says your actual time was one. The recommended
Oh,
was
well, because I looked at it and I said, "Good, let's
I
go."
see.
And so insurance concepts, less than a minute, and it says recommended is 10. And my first attempt, so it kept me going through here. Like I said, I had some questions that were asked of the two portions right here, a little quick quiz, and it took me a whole minute to answer, and I got it all right my first time, so I was on to number 2. And so going here, I had to try this twice because I had to read. I had to go back and look at it, but it shows you breakdown of how much time you're actually spending so you can see what you're comfortable with. It's going to offer the course in a very linear part. So, you're not going to be able to go to contracts, knock that out, and then go back. But once you finish this part of it, you can go back and click through as a refresher. So you'll have full access to the course. But as you see, it goes from common insurance principles to Texas general information, where you can get stuck. It'll highlight and color code. Okay, it took you more than average, to finish a particular section. So that would be a great section to go back and look at instead of having to study all of this over again and you knew this part like the back of your hand. So this is pretty much the format of it. And so, like I said, this is my adjusters, but it just goes step by step. The adjusters one is much longer, so don't freak out by how long this is. But it's much more detailed because as a claims adjuster, you have to really be able to understand the policies, the different triggers, when something happens, this is what happens next. So it goes through it, but it's not limited to just trucks. You're going to learn about homes. You're going to learn about other types of autos. You're going to learn about businesses. This is, in fact, business insurance. Business insurance. So all the different liabilities and such. That's, the other part of it. How a business owner's policy is structured. Inland marine, which is, a very specific thing. Equipment, surplus line. So you see there's a lot of information. It's not a fluff course is really what I wanted to just mention with that. It's not a fluff course. It's not a hard course, but it's not a fluff course. You're going to have to read. You're going to have to look through the information and sometimes a couple of times. And it's perfectly okay. At the very end, like I mentioned, this is the adjuster's course. And yes, it is long. So you get down here to this bottom information and it just shows you, again, seeing your results, seeing the information on here. I think I pulled up his by accident. We both did it. But it'll show you your quiz, your final exam. I wanted to show the final exam, but it's not going to let me see the final exam. But it'll let you take the final exam with the promise of having no cheat sheets from the comfort of your home. So that's the adjuster's license only. The other one, you do have to go into a proctored site, but there are some locations due to COVID that are letting you do it proctored from home with a camera, watching you that way too. We are right here at the top of the hour. Like I said, wanted to open it up to any questions, concerns, comments, anything else you need us to go back over. And if not, we'll continue to watch the group comments. This video is, again, recorded. So if you're just joining us late, want to go back and review some information, feel free to go back and review this. This video will be housed, first of all, under the announcements tab. Then it's actually going to be part of our YouTube page. So you'll be able to access it through YouTube. And again, anyone, I do that for you to be able to share it with ease, because of course there's some people who don't have Facebook, who don't want anything to do with social media, and they shouldn't be limited in their employment or professional capacities just because they weren't part of a group.
And I also want to add that,
Mhm.
one of the side benefits in going through this process, not only as it pertains to job opportunities and business opportunities, becoming a licensed producer made me a better consumer. When I really understood for myself the ins and outs of how auto insurance work, the ins and outs of how my homeowners, renters policies, what liability means, and all of those things, it really helped me. That was probably the first thing I went back and did before I even sold a policy to anyone else. I did a gut check to make sure that I had what I needed, to protect myself. So yeah, that's one of the things that this really just, it's a lot of information, but a lot of it is not going to be foreign and abstract. A lot of this information is actually very closely related to real estate. For example, understanding how that works, the ins and outs of finances, right? And so there's a lot of things, a lot of nuggets that you're going to be able to extract from this, and that's really not haphazard. That's by design. The better versed you are, the more you understand it, the more of an asset and a resource you become to your customers and whoever that you engage with. And so, while it's important, yes, to study the material so that you can prove that you understand it to pass a test, I would really take this opportunity to not just know it from a surface level, but to do a deeper dive. Now, granted, I'm a lifelong learner, and like Lotta said earlier, kind of fire hose my way through sharing information. But the overall, encouragement is still the same, that this is a no regret move. Becoming licensed in an area where there's always going to be a consistent need, where you're also going to be able to reach those who may not be comfortable going to some of the traditional, places where insurance is purchased. That was a big motivation for both Lotta and myself in setting up our agency, is we wanted to have real conversations, where people didn't kind of clam up and be intimidated like you are sometimes when you go to the doctor or to the courthouse, right? So that we can help take complicated products, break it down into digestible, actionable pieces. So if that's something that interests you, if that's something that, motivates you, I'll say statistically, especially as, minority women in this space, that less than 2% of all insurance agencies, are owned by minorities, which means by default, a lot of us are having to spend our dollars outside of the community. So this is yet another, there is a need. The property casualty space specifically, these are coverages, these are not optional. People have to have this coverage if you're going to operate a business, if you're going to buy a truck, if you're going to be in the business. So you're not having to convince people to spend money that they weren't going to spend. Period. You're just simply giving them an option to do business with you versus doing business with maybe somebody at afar who may or may not have their best interest at heart.
Absolutely. So again, we'll stick around for the next 3 minutes. If not, we'll close out the video. You'll find it on YouTube. You'll find it under the announcements tab. Come back, check it out later, because we know there was a lot of information given. Hopefully we've given you a good navigation of the website that has the information stored on there, so you can go in there, do the dive, and just, reach out to myself as well as Precious if you have some additional questions. And so, again, just if there's any other questions right here, right now, thank you for the comments that are being shared as well. We want to answer those while they're at the top of your minds. But this is a lucrative business. This is a needed business. And as Precious said, we can't really stress that enough. Just, it's one of those businesses, and I've talked about this quite a few times. If you don't want to chase clients, get into trucking insurance. You won't have to chase them. They're coming to you, and unfortunately, you're not going to be able to help everybody. But that's kind of a special place to be, because now you get to be the chooser rather than the beggar, and so if you want a business that really functions more in that way, you're still helping everyone, but you just, again, all you have to do is really be in a few circles to say you're an insurance broker or agent, you're a licensed professional, and you are going to be heavily sought after, because it is complicated and there's such a huge price tag, associated with it, as far as when things go bad, when things go wrong, that people will take that extra time, pay money, and such, to really be aligned. Precious, I'm not sure if you're saying this. Do you guys recommend starting with your own business or working under a company? Did you want to address that? And then I'll comment as
Yeah,
well.
so that's a really great question. It really depends on, to what Lotta was talking about, um, what your current setup is and what your comfort level is with offering, professional services. So if you have never sold, just in general, then it may be more beneficial to work with someone else, and then that way you get a piece of the action, but it's not squarely on your shoulders. Because unless you have a mentor or someone else that you're connected to, the assumption is, kind of like with your driver's license, right? People will hand you the keys whether or not you know how to drive a car or not, because they assume that the license means that you're ready. If you have another business, if you're already doing compliance and back office and this pairs well with your current offerings, then it may make sense to go ahead and just integrate this into your business and do it, in the way that you choose to do it. So there's no right or wrong with that. I mentioned that I started off working for someone else, because I needed to kind of get my mind around, what the flow is, what that was going to look like.
Let me bring that other question back on real quick. Okay, where'd he go? All right. Same with my recommendation. Sales is revenue. Sales is really what drives everything. No matter what kind of business you're in, you got to get the money, or else it's just a hobby. And so, anytime that you can sell and be comfortable in learning as you're selling, it's really that ramp up period real fast. That's kind of how I came into it, through that sales lens, and then I learned what I needed to learn to make sure that I was able to educate others on it. But I had to learn it from a sales environment. I had to learn it from a product feature type environment. Like, why do people want this? What is it that they want? That really helped me put my mind together. And I really would say that helped me with my marketability as well, because who is going to turn down someone that brings in money, right? And when you're coming in to work under another company, same like, working under another authority, you're bringing money to the table. So you're going to get their attention. Your chances of being rejected again go way down, because you're bringing it. You bring the party. And so just kind of having that confidence and such goes a long way if you're looking at doing it more independently than doing it not professionally, because it's all professional, but doing it for a larger company. So let's move on to this question, Precious. Is this something you can do part-time? As you mentioned, can you add it to a compliance service?
So yes, yes and no. Again, it really depends on, how you intend to do this part time. One of the things that, Lotta and I are tasked with daily is that, this is different than a 9 to 5. I'm not a W-2, I'm a business owner. And so I can't step away for extended periods of time, without having some sort of contingency plan for my customers. Because when they call during our posted business hours, they expect, service. And so part-time in terms of being an agency owner, probably not, because your customers aren't going to understand that you have limited availability, or if you share that, they may or may not want to, do business with you. Part-time working for someone else, sure, there's always, part-time and full-time opportunities.
And I would co-sign on that, especially starting it off completely on your own. As you said, the key is to make sure operationally you don't miss a beat. So if you outsource some stuff, which in the beginning it's kind of hard to outsource what you don't know what you need. There's some challenges there. So that's where it's beneficial to have leverage of working in partnership with someone else. But there is some flexibility, but keep in mind, insurance, much like banking, I like to even think of them as like sisters, or at least, some kind of cousin that it's very used to working bankers hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, off holidays, because you have other parts of a system that you'll need to interact with. When we work with underwriters, at these larger carriers, they're closed, on Christmas Day. So even though I do have some resources, if I choose to be available on Christmas Day, because I might be off from my day job, I have to remember my underwriter's not available to ask some additional questions. So, having hours that mirror some of the industry standards is usually industry preference. But how you network, if you're gathering applications in the evening to process them during the day so you could ask those questions, that's your flexibility, that's your leverage. So hopefully we answered the question on that.
Let me also mention the second half of that question, the compliance
Oops,
services.
sorry.
So it's really important to understand that insurance itself is a highly regulated industry. It's a highly regulated product. And so if there are other offerings, it's just really important that you kind of separate them and kind of address what is an insurance product and what is not, because that does have, implications. Also, I don't know if we really mentioned it or not, as an insurance professional, as an insurance agency, we are required to carry a specific type of insurance, called errors and omissions corporations or professional liability insurance, because our commodity is the education, our commodity is the recommendation. So if we misread a situation, or if we give bad advice, if we sell the wrong policy, there's blowback. We have liability. We can be sued for that. So we carry insurance for that exposure as well. So that is one of those costs as well, to be contemplated. But as far as the different type of services, most specifically, what we cannot do as insurance professionals is require the purchase of anything else as a condition for buying the insurance. So yes, it can be added to a suite of offerings. Both Lotta and myself were actually licensed risk managers, and so risk management is beyond just insurance. But I did want to kind of call that out and make that clear, that you can't, tie the two together and make it where if they buy the insurance, they have to buy this other service from you.
Very much like real estate. When you hire a real estate person, and it's a period of when you actually are claiming that you're hiring, just contacting them, they're going to push that hey, you need to hire me so I could officially be on here. So we're not just, taking tours and spending gas, but there's that point to where you agree to enter into that agreement that this person represents you, that they're going to be your seller, buyers, not to get all into real estate, but there is that point. So very much like that, when we do initial quotes, we're also assessing, does this fit with our business? Being a smaller agency, we're not going to take on 50 trucks from one company. Now, 50 trucks spread out, that's different. But from one company to where they would almost by default make us an employee, because we would have to spend so much time with them to make sure they have everything they need. That's not where we are, and that's not even who we focus on. We do prefer working with the smaller companies. We prefer working with new companies, because our goal, much to this nonprofit, is to let's have these conversations early so they don't catch you in a bad habit later. If you want to grow, let's be strategic. But we a lot of times it's missed to where someone gets matched up with a company just for price, and then they're told you just can't grow, and they're like, what do you mean I just can't grow? No, this price was given to you because it was under the assumption it's just going to be you, yourself, and I. We don't want you hiring. We don't want these other things, because now that's riskier. And so you have to have a agent and agency, the understanding, even if you brought it to the table, of what flexibilities are provided. And so that's where we offer consultations as risk managers. And so in Texas, that is a license you can get. You can get a risk manager license. There's no pre-education actually for it. So it's really heavily something that someone in the field, kind of as they've gotten to work and now they want to do consultations and not be locked into a product. I don't want to have to say I sold this, but I want to dig into your policy from the information you shared. And so that's kind of what a risk manager. Not all states have risk managers that are that need to be certified and licensed by the state, but Texas does. So great questions, you guys. And we're a little over time, but I wanted to make sure that we fully answered those. I mean, it's a great field. It's so much growth. It's so much possibilities. And I just like trucking, I don't want anyone to walk away overwhelmed now, like, oh my God, what's my life? I want you to feel like, yet there is another thing you can do, another avenue you can explore. Because if you've been sitting there trying to think, I want to buy this truck, but I know nothing about trucks, don't do it. Don't do it. That's my advice. I actually shared that with someone, and I'm not sure if they're still on the video. Look, if your heart is not into trucking, don't do it. Don't do it just for the money, because it's going to wear you out. And that's any type of business. If you don't like talking to people, you should not be in customer service. It's going to wear you out, even if you got paid richly for it. And you fool yourself every morning that you go to work and saying, yes, I like my check. I can't stand those folks. You can't mix it for long-term success. You have to, and it's a process of development. It's a process of development, because you're not really going to know what you like or what you don't like until you research it. But just know there's options. And that's all this presentation was meant to put before you. There's options in the insurance industry. It's an industry much like trucking that is aging. It's changing in color. It's changing in demographics, in how it does business. You no longer really have to go into a physical location, sit down in front of somebody, wait till they honor you with their presence. You have clicks and buttons, and you can deal with people on an international basis as well. So this is, again, meant to encourage you, not to frustrate you, not to overwhelm you. And I thank you guys for, participating, joining in the middle of the day, or whenever you're watching the replay of getting more information about the insurance industry. So in closing, I didn't see any other questions. If you would like to present information to the group as a whole, such as Precious and I did here, excuse me, reach out to me. We'll schedule a time. Usually it's an hour, just so people can share the video and not look at that timer and be like, oh my God, they just kept talking, like today. But we're really passionate, as you can tell, about this, and it's life-changing for me. I'll speak on that because it allowed me to do things that I never thought I could do. And so we'll talk more about that. Also wanted to close in saying this is my weekly training, on live, but there is a Thursday training, and our topic for the Thursday Lunch and Learn is how to market your compliance services. So if you're looking at doing back office, if you're trying to get into back office, you definitely want to catch on to that. So look in the announcements tab for the information on how to get the Zoom link for how to market compliance services to your clients. All right, well, thank you again. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and end this now. Thank you, Precious, for your time, your expertise as always.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, have a good one, and talk to everybody later in the day. Today is my day on here, so just catch up with me. I think I went over time on one of my appointments, but you know where to find me. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.